Hi everybody, I'm back again with another recipe. Today we're going to be making one mixture that can make either waffles if you've got a waffle machine or pancakes. I do waffles every Monday morning. We call it Waffle Monday and we all look forward to it at home. I do it for the boys before they go to school and I make myself a couple of extra that I take to work later on. I was making the Jamie Oliver recipe for ages and then it dawned on me that if I was going to make something every week then I wanted it to be as healthy as possible. So I have made up my own recipe that uses different grains and less sugar and and it adds quite a bit of protein to it so that we can have a really tasty waffle. My boys laugh when I say, that I'm going to make waffles. Then they always say, is it normal kind or your kind? Meaning, is it healthy or unhealthy? And they have said that these waffles are the nicest ones they've had. So I love it when you can bridge the gap between something being really healthy and actually really tasty as well, because I think food should be delicious and it should be something you want to share and it should be something that you want to eat. But also I've had to go out and buy elasticated waists because I've been eating too much cake in lockdown, so we also need our food to be healthy and to work for us and to nurture our body. So let's start. So instead of doing just plain white flour, which has been processed and has had a lot of the goodness taken out. There is, a lot of people make flour the villain, but actually non-processed whole wheat flour, which this is really good for you. It's got lots of fibre in it, so unless you're intolerant to wheat or you've got celiac disease, there's no reason why you can't eat wheat. So I've got 1 scoop of wholemeal flour. Now this is a 100ml scoop, but you can easily use a teacup or probably about 1/3 of a mug. So whatever you want to do, but I'll also put the grams onto the site. And next thing I'm going to put in is porridge oats. Now if you don't have a blender like this that can blend these porridge oats up, then just add an extra scoop of flour, your whole wheat flour. And then I'm going to put in a scoop of ground almonds. Now ground almonds are absolutely wonderful. They're a fantastic nut, and it was found that people who ate a handful of nuts every day actually had better cognitive health, so better brain health, than people who didn't. And these are full of vitamin E and they are full of magnesium, which is going to be a really nice relaxing I can't get this open. I'll do that in a minute. I think I'll have to get my husband to open it for me. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of sugar in. You could put a tablespoon of honey, a tablespoon of maple syrup, or you could put no sugar at all and see how it goes. I'm going to add a pinch of salt because that just accentuates the sweetness without actually having to add anything. I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. I was very lucky. I got treated to this for my birthday and it's a lovely vanilla bean paste. So I'm going to add that in, and I'm going to add in my baking powder if I can get the lid off. I'm going to go and get the lid off. It really annoys me when I need a man to do something like this. But anyway, I could have done it myself if I'd had the time. So 2 teaspoons now of baking powder, because we've got no self-raising flour or anything. The baking powder will give it a lift. And then we're going to add our wet ingredients. So we've got 2 cups of milk. I'm using coconut milk because I can't do dairy. It just makes my stomach sore. But if you can have dairy, then some milk's a really, really nice addition to this, and it's a really good nutrient, especially for your children who are growing and need the calcium for their bones. So again, don't think that you have to use the non-dairy milk. And then I'm going to add 2 egg yolks. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to whip the eggs whites up separately, and then they're going to give it an extra boost. Now, if you don't have an electric whisk or you don't have a whisk, just add your egg whites in whole. They will probably be a little less, have a little less bounce, but it really won't matter that much. So I'm just breaking mine in half, and what I do is I pour the egg yolk into half the shell, and back again until I've got most of the white in the bowl. You don't need to be too fastidious about this. Okay, so in here now I've got my 3 different types of grains. So I've got porridge oats, wholemeal flour, and ground almonds. So again, remember, if you don't have the ground almonds, I got mine in Poundland and they were quite cheap. If you don't have them, then you could always add 2 scoops of the wholemeal flour. You could make the whole thing with 3 scoops of wholemeal flour, or 2 scoops of wholemeal and 1 scoop of white flour. Just play around with it. As long as you have the proportions kind of right, then it will work out. I've got my sugar in here, my baking powder, vanilla for taste. If you don't have any, don't worry, you could always add cinnamon. I've got my milk and I've got my egg yolks and my egg whites in a bowl. Make sure your bowl is lovely and clean, because any grease will stop them whisking up. So I'm going to take this over to the liquidizer. If you've got a hand blender or a processor, you can mix your mixture up. It might not be quite so fine, but it will still taste delicious. So I'm going to mix this and then I'll come back and whisk the egg whites. Okay, so I've mixed my mixture and it's quite a nice thick batter now. And I'm just about to whisk my egg whites. I've got a nice clean bowl and I've got an electric whisk. If you don't have an electric whisk, you can use a hand whisk. This might be a good time to get the kids in here and you can take turns. So you can see it takes no time at all. You can see it took no time at all. I think I'd be lucky if that's a minute. Obviously, if you do it by hand, it's going to take a little bit longer, but it should be entirely doable by hand. Okay, so I'm going to add my wet mixture, my batter, into the egg whites. So the egg whites now, by whisking it, I've incorporated loads of air, so I should have some nice fluffy waffles. So I'm just pouring it straight in. I'm not worrying too much about the egg whites at this stage. I just wish these things were easier to get all the mixture. I hate when you get a little bit left and you think, I could be eating that. Anyway, there we go. So that's been done now. And what I'm going to do is fold. So when you fold, you go around the edges of the bowl, lift it up and over into the middle. And you just do it gently. So it's a bit like folding over, I don't know, a crepe or something like that, or an envelope. And you're just folding it over. And the reason you do this is to keep as much of the egg whites with the air in them, so you get a nice fluffy, so you can see that that is quite a nice kind of fluffy aerated mixture. There we are. So our mixture is now ready to cook. I've got a waffle machine and I've also got a pan to make pancakes in, so I'm going to do both because not everyone has a waffle machine. I managed to get this one and I've had my last 2 from Lidl's. And they're quite cheap. So if you see one in Lidl's, grab it because they're really, really nice. It's really lovely having waffles. And who knows how long it's going to be before we can go to a cafe and have waffles or pancakes out in a cafe. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to get this heated up. The waffle machine's already heating up and then I'll get cooking. Okay, so I'm going to start with my waffles. I use butter in my waffle machine. It's up to you. You could use a bit of oil or you can use butter or coconut oil. So I'm just making sure it's well greased. And then I'm going to put in about half a ladle full, well, probably 3/4 of a ladle full of batter. And then I'm going to let that cook away. And I'm just going to start making my pancakes. So I use coconut oil for my pancakes because it's got a high burning point or high smoking point, which means that it doesn't burn very easily. And you can get this coconut oil quite cheaply from Aldi. So if you're ever in Aldi, then just pop in and get some. I'm just giving it a bit of a wipe, and I've got it on a medium heat, but you might have to turn it up and down to suit yourself. So I'm going to pop 3 pancakes onto here. So you can see the mixture can be used for pancakes or it can be used in the waffle machine. So here we are, these are my pancakes cooking. I'm just going to turn it up a little bit. There we are. So these are cooking, and what I'm waiting for is some little air bubbles to come on top of the pancake, and then I can flip them over. And I've got here a plate with a tea towel, clean tea towel on top, and I'll pop my pancakes in there as I'm cooking them. and that will keep them warm, but they actually sort of steam inside it, so it keeps them soft as well. And what I always serve the pancakes with is frozen fruit. So the night before, I just put some frozen fruit into a bowl. I add a tablespoon of maple syrup, and then when they're defrosted a little bit and there's a bit of liquid coming out, I give them a bit of a mash with a fork, and then I add in a tablespoon of chia seeds, and that just thickens it up. It thickens the juice up, but it also adds some omega-3 fats, which are great for your brain, and it also means that it adds a bit extra fibre. So it's really, really good for your stomach, and it's really good for your digestive system. So we've got these berries here, and I just buy the mixed bag of summer berries. We're not quite at berry season yet. I mean, in Britain we will be very soon. So this is a great way to get your nutrients from berries. I've got some live yogurt here, and I've got some maple syrup. So they're the toppings for the pancakes or the waffles. So there's my first waffle ready. I don't need to add butter to my machine every time. So I'm just going to get my next one in, and my pancakes have got holes on the top. It's all happening here. So I'm going to get these turned over. Oh look, I've got a hair in that one. Bit of extra protein for someone. And I'm just going to try and get these apart so I can turn them. You can see how fluffy they are. Lovely and fluffy. So that's 1, 2, 3. And they'll only be a few minutes on that side because they're really nearly cooked. So I'm just going to get on, cook them all, and then I'll show you at the end them plating up. Okay, so now I've got a lovely big stack of pancakes and waffles for everybody's breakfast. So I'm just going to plate up a waffle to show you how it would look. So I've got some of my fruit. So I've got my waffle here in the middle of the plate. A lovely big scoop of fruit. There we go. And then I've got some live yogurt here. And live yogurt is, I always have a tub of this in the house, and because it's going to really help feed your gut. And we all know the correlation between your gut and how you feel. So, you know, when you're feeling nervous, you feel it in your stomach. So this is going to really help that. And a drizzle of maple syrup. I absolutely adore breakfast, and I would rather spend more time on breakfast and have a sandwich for my dinner. So there we go. We've got our waffles, which are healthier because they're full of fibre, got far more protein than a normal waffle, and less of the processed flour. So you're going to really feel fuller for longer, and you're going to feel better on it, and you're going to have less of that sort of sugar high and then hitting a low at 11 o'clock where you're reaching for biscuits. So I really hope you try this recipe out. Remember, there are alternatives. If you don't have the processor, you can use more of the flour and not the oats, and if you don't have a whisk, you don't need to whisk your egg whites. You just add everything in. It'll be slightly less fluffy, but it'll still be delicious.